Hello, everybody. This is Selma Jean Francis Phillips. I haven't put a video up in a long time, but I'm going to do one today. I'm going to talk about music, politics, celebrity, um, just something I'd write if I was doing in my blog. First off, I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan's, and so everybody wants to know, why did Bob Dylan, after his motorcycle accident, take such a big resting time? Well, there's a lot of things that were happening. First of all, he went on that tour. Remember, he wanted to go electric. He wanted to do stuff more rock and roll, less folky. And his fan base didn't like it. And they were really pissed. And he got a lot of boos on his tour. And anybody, even Bob Dylan, it's got to get to you. And he started to use a lot of drugs. The thing with his relationship with Joan Baez, was kind of phased out because, Bob Dylan, and I know it sounds selfish, but his music came first, and he wanted to let go of everything folk, and he wanted to go in a different direction. He didn't feel like he fit in there anymore. He was growing as an artist, and so he wanted to do something different. Not that he would never do an acoustic song like that ever again. So he wanted the camaraderie of a band and everything. So she kind of phased out because she wasn't fitting into that role, and they were doing a lot of drugs. He was talking to the Beatles, turned them on to cannabis, and so that was going on. And then he had a relationship with Edie Sedgwick. He got involved with Edie Sedgwick, and it was he that was the fan of hers, because he's the one that had them contact her to meet her. She was actually working for Andy Warhol as his muse. Andy Warhol didn't really pay her. She was a rich socialite, and oh God, she dressed well. She was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. She was considered the it girl. She posed for Vogue. She took a lot of amphetamines, and she was very, very skinny. She kind of was a kind of twiggy type of a person. So he got involved with her, and she had a wonderful personality. She was just, she had that little girl-like quality. She was real sexy, but real fun. And when you were with her, she made you feel like you were the most important person there. That's what I read. Now, some of this stuff I've researched. Now, I'm also a spiritualist, so some of this stuff I intuited. So they went all over town, and they took pictures all over the place together, but you can't find any. Somehow they've been removed. Maybe Dylan's manager removed them. Things didn't end well for Edie because she ended up with a drug overdose. But, she had already moved back to California. It ended up being a love triangle. Even though Andy Warhol was gay, you had to love Edie. Everybody fell in love with Edie, even Andy Warhol. He said, and I'm not quoting exactly, I fell in love as much as love could possibly be with her. And he said that much later. But, he was kind of cold. See, Andy Warhol was, into the plastic people, the beautiful people, and he was kind of a superficial. And he kind of threw that kind of superficiality and in their faces. That was his art. He kind of liked it, and he made fun of it at the same time, but he capitalized on it, and he became a famous artist for sure. But Bob Dylan was gonna get his manager to manage her, and see, it wasn't just a love triangle. It was a triangle of philosophies. There was the authenticity versus the plastics. And because Andy Warhol, and this is the song that Bob Dylan wrote, like a Rolling Stone. Andy Warhol is the diplomat with a Siamese cat. It's slash Andy Warhol and Fuzzy, Edie Sedgwick's father, and that's why she couldn't let go of Andy Warhol, because she kind of had that father thing with him. But with Bob Dylan, the relationship could get on the sexual level where it couldn't with Andy Warhol. So anyway, she couldn't leave Andy Warhol. Bob Dylan was very upset, and it wasn't just that. He was doing drugs too, but she was worse than him, and he was trying to help her, trying to help himself. He was his thing didn't go good. He was just off kilter, and I guess she got pregnant. I don't know what happened to the baby, but she didn't have it. She either got an abortion or she miscarried, and that could have happened because she was taking lots of drugs. And that's what some of her friends said, since I researched it. Now, Bob Dylan doesn't like to admit that he had a relationship with her. Bob Dylan doesn't like to admit anything in his personal life. But I'm a poet myself, and I'm a writer. So I could decipher Bob Dylan's songs better than anybody else, and I'm an abstract thinker. So I know what that song was about, and almost the whole album of Blonde on Blonde. In fact, there's Edie in a film thing with her friends laughing. Oh, that whole Blonde on Blonde is all about you, and a lot of it was. Johanna was probably about Joan Baez and his new wife that he got involved with. Bob Dylan was upset, and Andy Warhol was upset. So, as often happens in love triangles, both of the people say, yeah, I don't want to do this, and you end up alone. What is the old Chinese proverb? If you chase two rabbits, you're going to end up catching none. And that's what happened to Edie. And so, she had a lot of trauma, and there was a lot of abandonment for her. She still had the talent. Yeah, the modeling agency wouldn't do her because she did kind of skanky videos with Warhol. Today wouldn't seem that bad, but probably in the 60s. But, she didn't do porno or anything. She was in her underwear, and, in a bed with a man. But, major modeling agencies didn't like that. And she could have overcame that. She could have done some other things had she got off the drugs. Well, what happened to Bob Dylan is, he got married. She got pregnant too. And this is the third baby that he was going to lose. And Bob Dylan wasn't going to have that. And he was probably just thinking, I need to change. Everything was going through his head. He got in a motorcycle accident. And there he is. He's married. And he's gonna chill out. And I bet. And here's the thing. I don't know if this is true, but I bet you the government was surveying Bob Dylan, and he felt it. There is a video where they were saying he wants to kill you, and he goes, I feel paranoid and all this stuff. And he said he felt paranoid. He might have had this feeling, if he didn't know it, that he was being watched. They were saying you're the voice of a generation. And he didn't want to be the guy because the guy was a target. Look what happened to Martin Luther King. He didn't want to be the guy. He knew. Bob Dylan was a smart guy. He knew what happened to truth tellers. They usually end up dead. And, probably not the major people, but, all the propaganda, some little kind of disturbed person like what happened to Charlie Kirk, that young man was just a pawn in their game, in the game of all the propaganda. America is not going to be destroyed by anything from the outside, not a planetary asteroid major disaster, not even a bad pandemic or anything like that, a war, even if we go into World War III. It's none of that stuff. Not even an economic depression. You know what's gonna destroy America? Like the Roman Empire, we're gonna implode from the inside. You know, we like to this tribalism thing this is what's killing us. This tribalism thing, and you know who knows that? I mean, we were built. So you see, our bodies and our instincts have not caught up with the technology. Tribalism was meant to keep us safe and keep us in little tribes so we could, get enough food. But now it's almost like everything's turned into big religious wars. You could be so tribal that you become a cult, us and them. Read the definition of a cult. The Democrats against the Republicans, the blacks against the whites, the straights against the gays, or one against the other. And this is how we're going to implode, because whatever side you're on, you're reading the algorithms are just, you get in like an echo chamber, and it just tells you what you want to hear, and you become angrier and angrier, and you don't look at the other side. There's not, when I went to school, we looked, when I was younger, of course, we looked at both sides. I was in the speech debate thing, and we would debate both sides of an issue. They don't do that today. So anyway, but even back then, the government, even though they say we want democracy, power does not want democracy. Power does not want democracy, because democracy means power to the people. There's a lot of people in government that want power. A lot of people narcissists who seek power, seek government positions. But they're not the only ones. Some people seek government positions because they feel like they have a calling to help the people. And it doesn't go across the lines of Democrats and Republicans. They have both sides on each side of the thing. But everybody knows that people are tribal, and we have this instinct. And guess who knows that? The algorithms do, social media does, advertisers know that, people who manage celebrities know that. The celebrities you see, they're human beings. What you're seeing is a mask that their management teams and everybody created for them. Do you know how terrible it is for celebrity to live in that kind of they have to wear the mask all the time, and everybody falls in love with the image, and nobody gets to know them. That's why so many of them get into drugs or alcohol or sex addiction, or they just stay hung like what's his name, Prince, just hold up at your house. It's a terrible thing that authenticity is not, it's frowned upon. And the government frowns upon it. If somebody's too authentic, they're going to survey you, I believe. I don't know for sure, but I know they did it to John Lennon, and I bet you that was part of the reason Bob Dylan pulled back, and he never really went in the center stage. He didn't want to ever be the guy, because he wanted to live. He wanted longevity. He didn't want to be like Martin Luther King. He wanted to still write his songs, and he wanted to live to a ripe old age, and he certainly did. And Bob Dylan was a visionary. He was able to foresee things as they might play out. And so that's what I think happened to Bob Dylan. And that's a little bit about celebrity, and that was a little bit about politics. And anyway, I thank you very much, and please come to my channel. We'll be talking more about that later. Thank you very much.